status quo. Chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form. Text number 11. Atha tasyabhitaptasya atha tasyabhitaptasya atha tasyabhitaptasya. To combine tasya and abhitaptasya is tasyabhitaptasya. Tasyabhitaptasya. Atha tasyabhitaptasya katidha ayatanani katidhayatanani katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam nirabhidyanta devanam nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu tani me gadatah srnu tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu atha tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu atha tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu
atha tasyabhitaptasya
katidhayatanani
nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu
atha tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu atha tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu
atha tasyabhitaptasya katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu atha tasyabhitaptasya
katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah srnu
atha tasyabhitaptasya
katidhayatanani nirabhidyanta abhitaptasya,
in terms of his contemplation.
in terms of his contemplation,
Katidha,
katidha,
how many?
how many?
Ayatanani,
Ayatanani,
embodiments.
embodiments,
Ha, there,
there,
were. Nirabhidyanta,
nirabhidyanta,
by separated parts.
by separated parts,
Devanam,
devanam,
of the demigods.
of the demigods,
Tani,
tani,
all those.
those,
gadatah,
gadatah,
described by me.
described by me,
Srnu, just here.
just here.
Translation and purport by Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Purport.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. Maitreya said, "You may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into the diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic universal form." Please repeat this translation. Maitreya said,
Maitreya said,
"You may now hear from me
"You may now hear from me
how the Supreme Lord
how the Supreme Lord
separated himself
separated himself
into the diverse forms
into the diverse form
of the demigods
of the demigods
after the manifestation
after the manifestation
of the gigantic universal
of
form."
the universal form.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Demigods are separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, as are all other living entities. The only difference between the demigods and the ordinary living entities is that when the living entities are rich in pious acts of devotional service to the Lord, and when their desire to lord it over material has vanished, they are promoted to the posts of demigods who are entrusted by the Lord with executing the management of the universal affairs. Dasa and Srimad Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnana-Jnana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishnamrikaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Prajani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vajradhyatari. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravanta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this chapter entitled Creation of the Universal Form. What is this universal form? This universal form is one of the forms of God, which is the entire universe. When we say the entire universe, the universe is made up of planets. On the planets there are so many different varieties of hills and rivers, trees, different types of birds, different plants, oceans, and different entities, varieties of humans and animals, and worms, and insects. This is what the universe is. So if you consider the entire universe as one entity, the whole universe, then that entire universe is developing from the material energy energy, this whole universe is developing. So how did this universe develop into so many different complex varieties? This question is asked. So to understand this carefully, the creation of this whole universe. Because before the creation there was no universe. What was there before the creation? Only the Supreme Lord, the material energy, and the living entities who are within the body of the Lord. Because of the previous destruction and dissolution of the entire universe, all the living entities entered into the body of Mahavishnu. The living entities are not destroyed. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The body is destroyed, but the spirit is never destroyed. So where does the spirit go? Goes into the body of Mahavishnu. Then this material energy is lying dormant, no activity. When Mahavishnu is breathing inside, no activity that time. And then again Mahavishnu breathes out, then all the living entities are coming out. All the living entities are coming out. And these living entities who are coming out from the body of Mahavishnu, they are injected into the material energy. And that material energy becomes activated by the glance of Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu glances. He sees. And material energy begins to develop. So what is the development? The first development is from the pores or skin holes of Mahavishnu, so many universes are coming out. Those universes are in the beginning like small tiny bubbles in the ocean. It's like when you go to the ocean and see the fishes swimming in the ocean. When they breathe, you can see some bubbles coming out in the water. Similarly, when Mahavishnu breathes out, so many bubbles are coming. So those bubbles are like the universes in the seed-like form. But the universe to develop, Mahavishnu, he enters into the universe. Universe in the beginning is like an empty shell. There is nothing inside the universe. Universe is a shell. In fact, that bubble-like universe, seed-like universe, nothing is there. But Mahavishnu enters as another Vishnu form. He only enters as another Vishnu form. And then he fills the universal shell, half the universal shell, with his perspiration. And that becomes the source of the further development of the entire universe. That water of his perspiration, that becomes the Garbha ocean. Garbha means the source of birth of everything within the universe. The source of birth. Then Vishnu lies down on that water. And then from his navel, one lotus comes out. On that lotus, Brahma is born. Now Brahma is born means Brahma existed as spirit soul. But he is born as Brahma means he gets a particular kind of body. That is the meaning of birth. Birth always means getting a particular type of body. Spirit soul is not born, but the particular type of body is given, is acquired by the living, by the spirits. So Brahma is born. After Brahma is born, then Brahma has to do the further creation. Brahma is born for the sake of creating further the entire details of the universe. But Brahma himself independently is unable to do anything. Because when he is born, he is seeing only darkness everywhere. So then he is enlightened by Krishna. Krishna gives him, first of all, the Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge means the entire knowledge of what is this world, who is God, who is the living entity, what is the relationship, everything. All that knowledge is given by Vishnu. Then Brahma, he gets the knowledge, he gets the power, he gets the ingredients, and then Brahma. So the ingredients, how are the ingredients supplied to Brahma? For that, the explanation was given in the previous chapter here, before this universal form is created. Before that, the material energy differentiates, because of the glancing of Mahavishnu, material energy differentiates into elements. And those elements are acted upon by the gunas. Guna is the energy acting upon the elements. The material energy is both the active principle as well as the inert matter, both. That is the material energy. That material energy acting upon, as gunas acting upon the elements, earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, ego, all these elements. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna analyzes, in this world or in this creation, there are principally two energies. What are the two energies? The material energy and the spiritual energy. The material energy is matter consisting of 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, ego. And the spiritual energy is the living entity, Jiva Bhuta. Correct? But above both of them is the controller, the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Above the material energy and the spiritual energy, the controller of both is Vishnu. So that Vishnu is actually Krishna himself, who is present in this world as Vishnu, who actually is the controller of this material world. spiritual energy, both living entities and the matter. Now, controlling matter means the development of this matter into the varieties. From the matter, one type of development is the planets, which are the places for the living entities to take birth and carry on their activities. So, the creation of the different planets and the different situations on the planets, that is one type of creation. And then the creation of the bodies of the living entities, that's another type. So both these types of creations are happening systematically by the actions of the Supreme Lord. The living entities are actually simply participating in this whole process of creation. Living entities are helpless on their own. They are helpless. They cannot do anything because they are very, very tiny. They are dependent. They are in ignorance. So neither they have knowledge, nor they have power, nor they have by themselves independently they cannot do anything. They don't even have the instruments, they don't have the ingredients, the senses, nothing. So for the living entities to act, to perform some action, to do some activity, there is a necessity of this creation. This is different from the spiritual world where there is no creation. Why? Because in the spiritual world, all the living entities are situated in their original spiritual form. Original spiritual form is full of all the spiritual senses, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence, spiritual identity. What is spiritual identity? Everyone is servant of Krishna. Everyone is devotee of the Supreme Lord. So it's complete. It's perfect. There is spiritual understanding or spiritual knowledge. Everything is there. Perfect. Complete. But as soon as the living entity comes into this material world, then their spiritual form is covered, their spiritual senses are covered, their spiritual identity is forgotten. They forget their spiritual identity. They forget Krishna. Why forgetfulness? Only then they can actually try to be Lord of material nature. False Lord. Falsely Lord. Wrongly think or falsely think, I am the body. This false identity, because false identity is only if you have a false body. If I think I am a man, I have to have some body of a man, and I also have to identify with this body as I am this body. Then only I can say I am man. Do I say I am shirt? Does anybody say I am shirt? No. Why? Because shirt is different from you. You are wearing the shirt. Shirt is separate from you. Correct? But you are not the body, but I am thinking I am the body, I am man. Because I have to claim or I have to identify, I have to say, think I am man, therefore I am given one man's body at the time of creation of this body, and also that identification of this body. I am man. Why this conception, I am man, or anybody thinking they is the body, is because they want to enjoy. Enjoy two ways. One type of enjoyment is that I am the Lord. This identity, one part of the identity, I am the Lord. Another part of this identification is something is mine. It's like this house is mine. I identify this house as mine. It belongs to me. So these two types of identity. Aham mama. I am this body, and so many things connected to the body are mine. These two types of enjoyment, these are two types of enjoyment. We take pleasure in this. In this way we take pleasure. And material happiness is nothing but this type of pleasure. Aham. Who am I? I am this body, and that body also a specific designation of the body. Body by itself, it is simply some bones and skin and flesh and blood and mucus and other things. So that body is nothing great in terms of value. But because the body has got designations, you see, the designation of man, of woman, and further, birth in a particular family, therefore I belong to a particular family, aristocratic family, or Indian family, I'm Indian, American, German, and then birth in a particular type of family, in a particular type of Brahmana, I'm a Brahmana, or I'm son of so and so, doctor, big person, some powerful person. So this type of designation, not only that I am the body, but body with so many designations. Like you ask somebody, who are you? Oh, I am son of so and so, some big person. Or designations based on education. They get degrees and then they get qualification in terms of degrees acquired. So, like this, designations of the body, that becomes one type of identity called I. And another set of designations, mine, mama. This house is mine, this car is mine, this family is mine, this country is mine. What is this country? It's nonsense. There's nothing like country. Simply one identification, that's all, one designation. Some boundaries we have created artificially, and then we designate some portion of land as India, and then I am born in this India, therefore I am Indian. India is my country. It's all in the head there. In reality, there is nothing like India or America. Simply one land mass, one earthquake, everything is finished. All these borders can be finished, one earthquake. But simply, for the sake of false ego, because I want to lord it over India. Therefore, I claim to, just like these people, they fight for the country and then they want designation, freedom fighter, or somebody wants to become prime minister after the freedom struggle. Then the British were ruling, British were claiming, we are the rulers, we are the administrators, governor general, viceroy, so many posts. Then after the British go away to your country, India is independent. Then we struggle, fight, I want to be prime minister, I want to be chief minister. So all these designations, this identification, simply because of the false ahankara. So to facilitate this, so much details are being described here as creation of the universe. To facilitate this. Because each of us, a spirit soul, neither we are this body, nor we belong to this world, nor do those designations actually have any meaning with the spirit soul. Take all the designations of the person. I am engineer, I am man, I am intelligent, I am rich, I own this house, or I have so much wealth. All these designations do not have any meaning to the spirit soul. We understand that there is no connection or meaning when the spirit soul leaves the body. Only then we can understand that the spirit soul, the real person, the real living entity, when the living entity leaves the body, then all the bodily connections are immediately cut off. Immediately cut off. Because the body itself is finished. Then where the body connections remain? And the spirit soul is transferred to another body. Either transferred to another body or goes back to God. Our business is to go back to God where we belong, which is our real home, where we are really happy, everything is nice. But instead, we have a false conception. I belong to this world. Then to continue this false identification, the living entity is transferred to another. To continue. Why continue? Because the living entity wants to continue. I want to remain in this world, captivated by this material world and all the material facilities. I want to continue. Therefore, transfer to another body. But transfer to another body means, what about this present body which I was inhabiting so many years? That body is finished and all the bodily connections are cut off. Because body doesn't exist. So connections are not there. So to understand this fact, we have to understand something about this creation. That is why the description is making. Now why we have to understand this creation of universal form by the Supreme Lord. This is to help us understand how the Supreme Lord is ultimately the Supreme Person. It is His creation. He is creating. He is making the arrangement. He is in the background always. Even though in the foreground it seems like some devatas are doing some creation. Brahma is created. Varuna is created. Or Indra is created. Or the demigods are controlling also. Each part of our body is controlled by one devata. So, that control by the devata is ultimately in control of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Vishnu is controlling through the devatas. So, in order to establish this whole system, it's like this body is a complex system. It's not simple body. It's a complex system with so many organs, and the organs are working in particular way, they are connected in particular way, they are maintained in a particular way, they are having different functions which are taking place, very complex body. Similarly, the whole universe is a very big complex body. Whose body? Just like this body I say is mine, at least I can claim this is my body as long as I am within this body and utilize the body. So this whole universe, who claims that this universe is someone's body? Nobody can claim except the Lord. Even the Lord does not claim it as his body. But just to understand that universe is functioning as one gigantic body, the description is given universal form. The fact is Vishnu has entered into this universe. Otherwise the universe will not develop, the universe will not remain, the universe will not function. So Vishnu has entered, that's a fact. But his entrance is different from our entering this body. When I enter this body, I claim this body is mine. When Vishnu enters the universe, he does not claim the universe is his. Why? Because the whole universe, so many living entities want to claim it is theirs. At least some portion of it, the universe, they want to claim it is theirs. With the exception that Brahma, he alone has the claim to be the Lord of the universe. The entire universe. One person, Brahma. He is the first created being. And he is being given the task of further development of the universe. So therefore, he claims I'm the Lord of the universe. But actually, the real Lord of the universe is Vishnu. Because Vishnu empowers Brahma, gives knowledge to Brahma, gives the ingredients to Brahma, and then Brahma can create. And after creation, for maintaining the universe also, Brahma gets power from Vishnu only. And whenever there is trouble, Vishnu has to run to Brahma. Brahma has to run to Vishnu. There is trouble, please do something. Then Vishnu has to intervene. So like this, to understand this, Vishnu's control, Vishnu's role in the entire creation. That's why the description of the creation of the universal form. So before this universal form, creation of universal form, there is the creation of the ingredients and the living entities who have been injected into the material dimension. Then, as the elements are differentiating, the controller of the elements also are designated some demigods, some living entities as demigods. But they are unable to do anything until the Lord as the Garbhodakashani Vishnu, he manifested universal form. So it is said here, he separated himself into the diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic universe. So universal form, after it is created, then the Lord separates himself into the devatas. The devatas, different varieties of devatas are there. Different categories of devatas are there. Many categories. So first of all, the devatas who are controllers of the different senses. Because every living being, when the living being is created, he has to have senses. He has to have eyes for seeing. He has to have ears for hearing. So if the living entity has to get an eye for seeing, then it is a very complex arrangement. The eye as one of the senses with the facility for seeing. What will the eye see? The eye will see some form. So the form has to be there. Eye has to be there, the sense. Then the sense object, the form. And light. Without light, the eyes are useless. The form cannot be seen. Even if a person has eyes, with the ability to see. And there is a form which is the seen, object to see. Both the form and the eye are dependent on light. So that light is provided by the sun, or the sun manifests as the electricity, or the reflected light of the sun is moonshine, or the fire, which is energy of the sun stored in wood, or the effulgent gems, which are different types of stones which are capturing the energy of the sun and becoming effulgent. So ultimately it is the sun only which is the source of all kinds of light. So that sun has to be. So the Lord creates the sun, creates the senses, and creates the sense objects. Then He makes each of them interdependent. Without the eye, there is no meaning to sunshine or the form. Eye can see provided there is light and there is one form. The form can be seen provided there is light and there is the eye. And light also is meaningful if there is an eye and there is form. Then only light has got meaning in this world. Otherwise light has no meaning. So this interdependence between the sense object, and the deity controlling the light, the sun god. This interdependence is created by the Lord. That creation is called the creation of the universal form. So, the universal form creation means the senses are created, the sense objects are created, and the demigod controlling the sense and the sense object is created. Is given that particular function. So the sun god, the living entity with the particular sense, eye, and the sense object, the forms, the various forms of the matter, or the living entity's bodies. All this is created by the Supreme Lord at the time of creating the universe. So the further creation of the universal form in the form of the demigods who are controllers of the eye, of the tongue for tasting, eye for seeing, ears for hearing, that we describe. That will be the next few verses that will describe that. And then the creation of the different varieties of living entities, themselves the humans, the birds, the reptiles. Then the creation of the different places for them to live, the different facilities on the planets. Because given a type of body, they have to enjoy their senses. So their enjoyment is very, very specific. I want to enjoy with these eyes seeing one type of. Ultimately, this sense enjoyment is nothing but sex pleasure. So that's why the creation of the human form is not just human form, but creation of the male and female forms. For the male, the female form is enjoyable. For the female, male form is enjoyment. And that enjoyment also through the senses. Just like these eyes are perceiving female form as enjoyable. That too female human form. But a dog, a male dog, is perceiving female form of the dog as enjoyable. You see, this sense of enjoyment is all perverted enjoyment, it's not real enjoyment. Enjoying seeing the form of a woman. What is there to enjoy? There is nothing, there is no enjoyment in that. But it is a concocted enjoyment because of the desire to enjoy the particular thing. That is why there is a need to create this male form, female form of the human, male form of the dog, female form. Because the living entity wants to enjoy like a dog, wants to enjoy like a cat, wants to enjoy like a bird, wants to enjoy like a lion. Therefore, the need for creating all that variety. So that will be explained in this creation. So this creation universal form, the principle is the bodies and the living situation and the objects of the enjoyment for the senses, but the differentiation of the varieties. Okay, eyes are there, but there is an eye for a human, there is an eye for a cat, there is an eye for the bird. Different types of eyes are there. Not all same. Principle is the same, to see. But to see a particular type of form as enjoyable. I also see the bird. Even the bird is seeing, the male form of the bird is also seeing a female bird. I am also seeing female bird. But my sense of seeing is different in terms of enjoyment. In terms of enjoyment, the sense of seeing. That is why the real way to see for somebody who wants to know what is reality of the truth is not to see through this idea or attitude of enjoyment. That is why the scriptures say, if you want to become spiritually enlightened, give up this business of sense enjoyment. Give up the business of sense enjoyment. If I give up the business of sense enjoyment, then what is my enjoyment then? My real enjoyment is spiritual pleasure. That spiritual pleasure is not by seeing some beautiful material object. Rather, the spiritual seeing of the form of the Supreme God, Krishna. That is the pleasure of seeing, real pleasure of seeing. And that doesn't require these eyes. These eyes are useless for seeing Krishna. You require spiritual vision. And till you develop spiritual vision, you have to practice seeing Krishna and taking pleasure out of seeing the spiritual. The Lord has very kindly come in a form of the deity. That deity can be seen with these eyes. Can be seen with these eyes. And then we practice seeing the deity with these eyes. So far, before we got spiritual knowledge, our eyes were seeing all material forms and trying to enjoy seeing material. But to practice seeing spiritual form, the Lord has manifested the deity. So that deity form you see with these eyes, and you learn to appreciate spiritual beauty, form of the Lord, not some material form of some living. So like that, spiritual taste. Actually, spiritual taste is possible only with spiritual tongue. But right now, my spiritual tongue is covered by this material tongue. And my material tongue is busy enjoying all kinds of rubbish. So in order to give up this rubbish enjoyment, we are trained to taste prasada. Food which is ordinary food, which is offered to the Lord, and then we taste that as prasada. That prasadam is spiritual taste, not material taste. So you should always remember, when you see the Lord, you are not seeing the material. When you are tasting prasadam, you are not tasting some material food item. Therefore we say honor prasadam. Honor prasadam. So that time we should remind ourselves, spiritual seeing, spiritual tasting, spiritual hearing. Spiritual hearing is not what is according to my taste of material enjoyment. Oh, it is very nice, very melodious, very wonderful description. No. When you hear the Bhagavatam, when you hear the singing of Hare Krishna, you should not hear like you are hearing some material subject matter or some material sound, no. Material music, no. You should hear from the perspective, from the spiritual perspective. So in the spiritual perspective you hear, in the spiritual perspective you taste or you see, or you do some action, some devotional service, then gradually your spiritual senses are awake. Then in spiritual senses you can relish spiritual pleasure, spiritual see. You can, the same deity, you will not see anymore as a material. In spiritual senses, you'll be able to see the Lord, the original Supreme Lord in spiritual form you can see. Then there is no more ignorance, there is no more running after material enjoyment. No. Then you taste spiritual happiness. So that is the whole idea. That's Dr. Maitreya and Bhagavatam.
Ini,